A baby carriage sits outside this home on Dockham Drive in Northeast Memphis. Neighbors say a woman and her daughters live inside the house. Sadly, Memphis police say two of the family members, including a 10-year-old girl, are now dead after a shooting inside the home overnight.
Around 1:50 a.m. on October 13th, Memphis police officers responded to a shooting in the 7100 block of Dockham Drive just outside of Bartlett, where they encountered a man who flagged them down while simply stating, "I did it." Once inside of the home, investigators found 3 people shot, an unresponsive adult female in the living room, a teenage girl in the kitchen, and a child, all suffering from multiple gunshot wounds.
Right now, Memphis police are working to learn what led to a shooting that killed a 10-year-old and another person in Northeast Memphis overnight.
Memphis police say it happened on Dockham Drive just before 2 this morning. 3 people were shot. They're still investigating what led up to that shooting.
The victims were identified as 43-year-old Alice Williams, who was sadly pronounced dead at the scene, 19-year-old Kamaya Williams and her 10-year-old sister, Mandia Shambanka, were taken to Regional 1 Hospital and Methodist Lebanon Children's Hospital, both in critical condition. The 10-year-old would sadly succumb to her injuries just a short time later. The suspect, quickly identified as 21-year-old Alante Mekabe, was quickly arrested and taken into custody for questioning. According to the affidavit, Mekabe told investigators he got into an argument with his 19-year-old girlfriend and that she pulled out a knife on him. He then pulled out a gun and shot her several times in the back. Mekabe then alleges that he blacked out, at which time he shot his girlfriend's mother, 43-year-old Alice Williams, and her 10-year-old sister. Eyewitnesses were able to confirm that the 19-year-old did in fact pull out a knife during the argument, followed by Mekabe shooting all 3 victims. Another witness told investigators that Alice Williams was shot when she tried to get between her 19-year-old daughter and Mekabe in an attempt to break up the altercation. People who live in the community said this is not the first time police have been called to the home. Neighbors said police have been called for past instances involving one of the young women and her boyfriend. A look into Mekabe's records determined that just last year, he had another run-in with the law. He was charged with aggravated assault for shooting at a group of maintenance workers. Court documents say Mekabe was inside of an empty apartment with a woman, and when confronted, he allegedly fired shots as he ran away. He's currently on judicial diversion for that incident.
To hear that happen, especially a young child, no, I can't put it into words right now because I'm just furious about it.
Kimberly Lira says her daughter used to play with the little girl, but over time, she and other neighbors noticed strange people coming to visit the girls living in the house.
It would look scary sometimes, like who is this car just like creeping up, and they would be waiting for them at the corner.
Someone didn't like him around, so he'd be parking on the side of the house, just trying to sneak away so no one would know he was here.
People who live in this community that we spoke to tell us that police have been called to this home before due to past altercations between one of the young women and her boyfriend.
They would always get into it with their boyfriends. Like the boyfriend would come over there, I think like a couple weeks ago, he had pulled a pistol out on one of them.
Santiago Laverius lives next door to the family and says he's heard arguing between the girls and the boyfriend. Several neighbors say they've also overheard the boyfriend talking about criminal activity.
Would talk about, just really sketchy stuff like strong arm robbery and other stuff like that.
MPD says one person was detained. We watched as officers towed away a vehicle from the driveway as evidence. Police have not released a motive for the shooting.
According to the Memphis Police Department, Mandia Shambanga's death marks the 25th juvenile shooting death in Memphis this year and is among at least 117 young shooting victims, according to data obtained by the Commercial Appeal from Lebanon Children's Hospital.
Overnight, we had a devastating trauma came in. That was a gunshot wound. Those unfortunately happen too frequently in our hospital, in our community, and frankly, too frequently to children across the country.
While some child victims of gun violence are by accident, that only makes up about 30% of their gunshot wound patients.
That's when a child gets a hold of a gun that isn't stored safely, maybe has the bullets or is unlocked, and either the child or their family member or friend is playing with the gun and it goes off. So About 30% of her injuries are related to accidental injuries. The other 70% are related to community violence. These are most oftenly children that are just caught in the crossfire. So it's adults that have adult conflicts. There may be a child walking by. Oftentimes there's houses that are shot up and the children just happen to be in the house.
While there isn't one solution that will fix the issue overnight, Dr. Williams says the number of guns in the community could impact the number of gun violence victims doctors in the area have to treat.
21-year-old Alante Maccabee is charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, reckless endangerment, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony. His bond was set at $2 million, and he is scheduled to reappear in court on October 19th. The 19-year-old victim remains in critical condition. The investigation is ongoing.